Hey guys, thanks for joining us again in our new series. We're in session 2 today of love, sex, and dating. And I'm going to tell you what, it's been an awesome time so far in this series. Last week we talked about love and looked at what God really defines love as. And it says in 1 John 3:16, this is how we can know what love is, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. So when you want to talk about love, it's not just some emotional feeling that you have, but it's a sacrificial life toward another person. And in the marriage relationship, it is critical to actually operate in love that is a blueprint of what Jesus did for us. See, the gospel, the good news of Christ, the sacrifice he made is literally our blueprint that we're to apply to our marriage relationship. And so I hope that was an awesome time. If you missed out on that, you can go back and watch the message from that Sunday and the group time that we had together in that where we talked about love. I hope that you'll do that. And today we're going to be continuing and we're going to be talking about the second part of this series, which is sex. I know we're talking about that thing that maybe you've never heard talked about in church. You know, the church has traditionally tried to avoid this topic. And we have seen how that's turned out, right? We see that's led to a lot of confusion, and we have to be people who talk about what is actually going on in our culture, because I'm going to tell you, and you guys already know this, but there's more confusion about sex in our culture than we've ever seen in history. What is sexual identity? I mean, it's mass confusion of what sex is. What does it mean to be in a God-honoring relationship and sex be part of that? What does it mean not to be? What is my sexual identity? I mean, there's just mass confusion, and I truly believe because the church has not stayed on the forefront of this and addressed what God has to say about sex, that's led to a lot of our problems. Because here's the deal. Who created us? Who created sex? God did. And if we don't talk about these things in the way God created for it to be, it gets really messy. You know, people who've experienced different things typically have 3 views of sex. One of 3 of these views, and let's see if these are potentially one of your views. Many of you may view sex as a gift. That's the appropriate view. God gave us sex in the marriage relationship between a man and a woman. One man, one woman, to be in a covenant relationship with God and with each other. And sex was given, obviously, to create more humans, but also for the enjoyment of those 2 people to do life together, to enjoy each other. We see that in the Song of Solomon. We see that sex was given as this incredible gift from God. But then there are many people who've stepped outside of God's desire for sex, and sex has now actually become your God. It's the thing that you think about constantly. It's the thing you pursue. It's the thing you worship. And your life is all mixed up in a lot of sexual sin, a lot of sexual stuff. So the first view is that we view sex as a gift, the appropriate view. The second view is that we view sex as a God. It's the thing we worship. And the third view that many of us may be struggling with is that we view sex as gross. Maybe some things happened to you in your life. Maybe you had a bad experience. Somebody did something to you that was inappropriate. And now for you, sex is viewed as this gross thing. And I just want to challenge you. Don't allow your past to determine a gift that God has given you. He wants to reshape your understanding of what sex is, and he wants to help you understand that it is a gift between husband and wife to enjoy, to be together, to honor him. As crazy as this may sound, but I believe sex glorifies and honors God when it's done in the right way between one man and one woman in the marriage relationship. So let me ask you a question. How do you view sex? How do you view sex? Because oftentimes our experiences shape our perspective. But I want to challenge us that sex is an incredible gift from God, to challenge how we're viewing sex, because for many of us, it's our God. For others, we see it as gross. And I believe that God wants us to see it as a gift. He wants us to understand his role of why he created sex. You see, when sex and sexual things are engaged outside of the marriage relationship that God designed between one man and one woman, our view of sex gets all twisted up. It gets messed up. And we see in Genesis, which you're going to read in just a minute, that God created sex for something, for it to be enjoyed and for the husband and wife to experience this relationship that God created for them. But whenever it's done outside of that, it always ends up bad. It's what we refer to as a creation ordinance. Okay, biblical scholars use that term, and I get that the average person doesn't throw out the term creation ordinance a lot. But there's a lot of sexual confusion in our culture. And the thing that can really help you know what God actually means, rather than some crazy who's taken the Bible out of context says, is look at what a creation ordinance is. A creation ordinance is something that God establishes at creation. And it never changes. It's a foundational thing that comes from the very heart of God. And the creation ordinance of sex and marriage came from the very heart of God between one man and one woman. And something that's very interesting is as you look in the New Testament and Jesus and Paul and others address sex, when you look at that, they always point back to Adam and Eve. Why do they point back to Adam and Eve? Because it's a creation ordinance, and they want to go back to the very foundation of God's creation to say this is the heart of God for marriage. God's heart for marriage is not between two men. It's not between two women. It is only forever between one man and one woman. That is the heart of God, the creator of all things. And when we step outside of that, I'm going to tell you what, it becomes destructive. It's dangerous. It confuses children. It's bad. But when we do it inside of that, and we actually love and honor each other as husband and wife, and we're glorifying God by coming together, man, it is an incredible thing. It is this incredible gift that God gives us in our marriages. In your group, you're about to read Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1 through 5. And I want you to notice the importance of sex in our marriages and how critical it is for us to see this gift. Because here's what the enemy wants to do. And Paul addresses this in the verses you're going to read in just a minute. That the enemy wants to break up your marriage. And the greatest way that he does that is when couples neglect this great gift from God. When they neglect loving each other, when they neglect this incredible gift of sex, the enemy wedges his way in. And I get it. I'm a man. Men, they think about sex a whole lot more than women. Women think about it less. They want non-sexual affection. Men want sexual affection. But I am telling you, I cannot tell you how many couples I have talked with, and the enemy wedges his way into their marriage when there is a lack of sexual intimacy. This incredible gift from God, because we bring baggage into our marriages, mistakes and failures and sins that we commit before. And we've got to let those things go. We've got to see this incredible gift from God that he gives us called sex within the marriage relationship and enjoy it. And man, I'm telling you, God will do incredible things in your marriage. I hope you guys enjoy your time together. This should be fun. Thanks.